Welcome back, fellow gardeners. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to introduce the hollyhock plant. I've had these plants in my garden, but I just thought it's very important to talk about it because I thought they had died and suddenly they've sprung up. And so I need to share with you what I've learned about this beautiful plant and how you can take care of the plant and also how to propagate using the seeds. So welcome back, and my name is Alice and I'm the Red Soul Gardener. So let's talk about the hollyhock plant. Now, the thing about the hollyhock plant, I've had them in my garden, but I'd never realized that basically once you do plant them, they are biannual and some of them are perennial. Now, what happened before is as I planted my hollyhock in the garden, as the stem, as it came to the end of its blooming season, I would just uproot the plant and throw it. And what happened this year is when I started my Shatsa daisy area, I suddenly noticed that the hollyhocks that I had, which I'd actually cut the flower stem, they've all started and new shoots are coming. So I wanted to share that with you because sometimes I think is that I should have known better. The thing about the hollyhocks plant is, first of all, they are self-seeding and you will get a lot of seeds because as the plant does grow is that it shoots a stem in the center. Now, as this stem, which is the flower stem, as it grows and produces the flowers, you do get seeds once it goes into seed production. And with these seeds, you could actually germinate them as I've done and basically reintroduce them back in your garden to have many, many babies. The other thing I discovered, and I think that's what happened, is as I uprooted my plant, is I didn't realize that it does have a very deep taproot, and that's how they even survive overwintering because they are very strong in the roots. So as I clipped the top of those two hollyhocks plants, I didn't realize that it was going to again start producing its foliage from the base of the plant. Now, the thing about hollyhock plants is that it has a very deep taproot, and these taproots actually help the plant survive. So when you do crop it and supposing if you do crop the plant, what happens, it will rejuvenate in the next season and come up again. So that is a point to note. Basically, let's look at the plant. First of all, you do get single flowered hollyhocks plant, and you do get a double petal hollyhocks plant, but they're all more or less very similar. Some are shorter and some of them are really tall. So for the tall variety, as I have there, it's always best to have them at the back of the garden, because if you have it in the front, what happens, it'll interrupt it'll overshadow your smaller plants. So do plant them at the back. Now, the other reason why I did plant my hollyhock plant with my Shatsa daisy is they say they're really good companions for each other, which I didn't know until recently. But also I think it's, once it does go up, is that the combination of the pink hollyhock plant and the white Shatsa daisy will complement each other. Now, when you talk about height, is that because it is a single stem and sometimes it will produce other flower stalks, and if you do have the tall variety, you have to keep it away from the wind because it does happen that it will maybe fall over. So once you do have this plant, what you need to do is take it, put a wooden pole in the ground and hold the plant as a support, because once it does fall over, it can break, the stem can break, and then you'll lose your blooms. What sort of sun does it like? what sort of light. Hollyhocks flowers actually do really, really well in full sun. And the more sun it gets, the more blooms you will get through the season. So they will bloom through spring right up through to the fall, depending on the region that you're at. However, what happens is that if you don't put it in full sun, it will get tall and it will get lanky and it may tip over. Again, you can have your support, but it just means that you don't get that many blooms as opposed to having a plant in the sun. What sort of soil does this plant want? Basically, like all the plants that we actually do, is a lovely drainage, well drained soil in order for the roots to really spread, and even as they are deep roots that they can actually go down. You don't want it in a situation that it's basically too clayish or whatever. And if you do have a clay soil, I would add a bit more compost, because what happens with over winter and you have just plain clay, what will happen is that if you do get a freeze, you will lose your taproot. So once you get through the season, as your beautiful plant is just producing flowers here and there, always remember that once you do have flowers, you will get the plant going into seed production. So basically, as you start deadheading it, if you want to get more blooms, remove those seeds. Once you've removed those seeds, they will look like this. This is what the seed looks like. So once you do remove the seed, what happens is the plant is just going to tell itself, we need to produce some more flowers because we need to go into seed production for our own survival. Now, when you do get to the end of the blooming season, you can actually let those, the flower stalk or the flowers actually go into seed production, because that is what you will collect. The dried seed is what you will collect, and with that, an easy propagation, seed propagation, works really fast, as I've done here. So now what happens is, now I had my flowers, I saved my seeds. Now when you do save your seeds, you have to let them go dark. They look a bit like this when they're ready. You just open them, pop them out like this, pop them out of your flower pod, and you will get seeds that look like this. Each of these are individual seeds. So what I simply did is I put it in my propagation box here, and I'm not one to make straight lines. I just scattered. And so this propagation could be about maybe 6 weeks, maybe about 2 months old. But basically all these little seedlings have taken off. Now what happens is, once they do take off like this, I decided that I'm going to get a pot and then put some individually. The ones which are not ready to, if they're too small, I will leave them here. But the ones which they actually are looking as if they're maturing, I will actually put it in a deep pot. Now the reason why I'd like to put it in a bigger pot like this, because as we said before, it has very deep tap roots, and in that way the tap root can actually go down. So what we're going to do is actually have them here. So I'm just going to move this here, bring these two pots here. I did slightly water them last night. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is that for these bigger plants here, I'm going to put them in a bigger pot, because once again, as we know, the tap roots do go deep, and I don't think this is ideal in order to let that taproot really get down. So just simply, I'm just going to simply go in here. Oh, it's quite deep. And just lift it. Let's have a look at the rooting. Weed. So this is my plant, and it's actually rooted really well. There we go. So what I'm going to do is actually put it in here because I think it's big enough to go into a slightly bigger pot. And then what we'll do is, as it matures, I will just keep moving into bigger pots and let that lovely little taproot really go down. And then when I'm ready for the garden, we just move it straight in the garden, and I'm really excited. So that's one. I'll just put it there. And then I'm going to look for another one. This one looks pretty healthy. So I'm just going to, again, pull it. And you can see actually that the taproot has already formed this white bit here. And it looks like it's going to be a healthy taproot. So what I'm going to do is actually move it in here. I'm quite pleased with that taproot. Just move it in here. And the soil is moist. I'm going to keep it in indirect sunlight so it doesn't scorch the leaves as they're still babies. So with that propagation, I think these two will be fine. Now, what I'll do with some of these other ones, the smaller ones, is I'm just going to pick them because they do look a bit crowded. Again, nice taproot coming up here. But I'm just going to temporarily put them in here and let's see how they will develop. I'll just use my hands. Just put one in here. And I'll just keep an eye on it so that I'll keep another taproot. Look at that one. But I'll keep it for a very short time because these taproots seem to be working quite fast. So I'll just keep it here and keep an eye on it. And then the rest of them I will do in the afternoon after we finish this session. So basically I'll keep moving it into different pots depending on the size. And then when it's ready to go in the garden, I will just acclimatize it, put it for a few hours. If you're growing it in a container, a few hours every day, slowly increase that, and eventually you can have that for the summer. But with these other plants, I'll wait until they mature. And once they do mature, I will introduce it in my garden at the back and just see those lovely blooms. Thank you so much. And don't forget to like, to subscribe, to press the notification button. We're on Facebook, Instagram. I'm always posting. Do send me your comments and do go and get yourself one of these plants. I love them.